Warning: the following program features footage of a hunky, scheming, Australian lifeguard. If you or someone you know has been swindled, bamboozled, or left heartbroken by a hunky, scheming, Australian lifeguard, please contact us at the social media sites listed below, so that we may continue our efforts to warn the public about the dangers of hunky, scheming, Australian lifeguards.
Greetings, film connoisseurs. Oh boy, it's finally happening, back by popular demand for the first time ever on national television. We are going to definitively demonstrate which non-immigrant visa Baywatch's hottest bad boy used to enter the United States. And that's not all. We're going to take it further. We consulted with an immigration attorney to find out whether any of his crazy immigration schemes from the show Baywatch would actually work in real life. Yeah, we're talking about Logan Fowler, a devious dude from down under of dubious immigration status in the United States, a country infamous for its brutally Byzantine border bureaucracy. Can Logan defeat the system? We're gonna find out. And stay tuned to the end for some real-life happy news. Some people sit in the shadows, afraid to walk under the sun. But some people run to help somebody because it is part of their job. Don't get stressed out, you're gonna be okay. I have some free time to help you with something today. I'm available now. I have some time, yeah. I'm available now. I'll help you with something as long as I'm home by dinner. As I mentioned, in this episode, we are discussing the immigration schemes of Baywatch's bad boy, Logan Fowler, played by Tasmania-born actor Jason Simmons. As a character, I have to warn you at the top, Logan is simply not to be trusted. He is selfish, he is philandering, he is always scheming, and I think I could change him. I mean, I know my parents won't approve, but he just needs the love of a strong woman, and all the stickers on my Trapper Keeper say that I'm good enough. Logan Fowler appeared as a regular character on the iconic 90s hit TV show Baywatch, which at its peak was the most viewed television program in the entire world, with over 1 billion people tuning in. I'm not exaggerating. I said billion with a B as in Baywatch. And Logan was there from seasons 5 through 7. If you're not familiar with the show, let me tell you that it is a fun time. You get to see all the beautiful people that protect the beaches of Southern California in all those typical lifeguard ways, like going undercover to stop a seaborne drug ring, or thwarting pirates from overthrowing the beach, or investigating ghost sightings at an old hotel in a 2-parter episode, mind you. Or maybe they'll just help out a friend who's in an abandoned factory with a troubled masked man in a story that bears no legal resemblance to Phantom of the Opera.
Could never accept the fact that she would come back to him. Nevermore. Nevermore.
Oh, and there's an episode with an octopus that steals surfboards. Also, most episodes contain a short musical break, so if you're getting tired, you can just kind of zone out and enjoy this music video of the Kmart Blue Light Special version of whatever music was popular at that time in the 90s. Did I mention the octopus? There's an octopus. It steals surfboards. You gotta check it out. Again, that one's also a two-parter. Whew. They knew what they were doing. Early in Logan's time on Baywatch, he reveals that his time there could be short.
Nah. My visa expires in 2 weeks. Oh, didn't you get your green card?
And it is made clear he could be forced to return to Australia very soon.
Empowered enough to boot your little butt back down under. Now take your little rubber ducky.
Which is interesting, not only because it portrays a very real conflict that millions of residents of the U.S. face on a continuing, worsening basis, but also because one of the primary reasons things have gotten harder is a sweeping immigration law that passed during Logan's time on Baywatch. Logan's seasons of Baywatch aired from 1994 to 1997. In 1996, Congress authored a bill called the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigration Responsibility Act, or IRA for short, and then President Bill Clinton signed it into law. We're not going to go into all the details here, but suffice to say that this bill was responsible for vastly increasing the number of people who could get deported, while also severely diminishing both the pathways to fixing immigration status and the defenses available against deportation. It also created a system of years-long bans to prevent people from returning by any means, even well after deportation. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the classic fix for immigration problems? Also took a hit from this law. For those who entered the U.S. without a visa, or unable to prove that they did, this bill made it impossible to fix status through marriage to a U.S. citizen while living inside the United States. Hey, while on the subject, let's talk about visas for a minute. One reason, perhaps, why it might be hard for a U.S. citizen to understand immigration troubles is that owning a U.S. passport makes it very easy to travel almost anywhere in the world, with only a few exceptions like Russia and China. All of the green-shaded countries on this map require little or no pre-travel documentation from U.S. passport holders. Let's take a look at the same map for Mexican citizens. Still a lot of possibilities, but note one large exception to the north. For Mexican citizens, getting even the most basic visa, a tourist visa, to the U.S. requires filing an application and undergoing an interview at a U.S. consulate where they must demonstrate deep personal and financial ties to Mexico in order to prove to U.S. officials that they do, in fact, only intend to be tourists. Currently, the wait for an interview at U.S. consulates in Mexico and many other countries exceeds 2 years. And if the officer denies the tourist visa for any reason, as they are free to do, there's no review of the decision. You have to start all over. For the sake of comparison, let's look at the visa map for another country, Nigeria, shown here in red. Nigeria has both the largest population and economy in all of Africa, but the Nigerian passport only enables easy travel to about 1/4 the number of countries of a U.S. passport. Remember, all the countries in gray require some kind of consular processing for a visa. Now back to our main subject matter. Baywatch, sure, it was prone to topical episodes like any sitcom was in the 90s, but only in the general 90s sitcom sense of being topical. You know, issues that were widely discussed at the time, like eating disorders.
Did you have breakfast this morning? Yes.
Drugs. Organized crime.
All of it, or I'm gonna break your legs.
Or Hulk Hogan.
I had a choice. Drugs and street life, or getting healthy, working out, and getting my act together right here.
With Logan's immigration problems, I really think the writers were just trying to make an interesting conflict to make a conniving character struggle. I really doubt they were trying to say anything about US politics. So we've established that this astute Aussie aspires to abide in America long term. What attempts does he make toward this goal? And what is his likelihood of success? One of the first questions immigration lawyers ask in a consultation is, how did this person enter the country? Remember what I said about that 1996 law, IRA? Proof of lawful entry to the United States is going to be vital for Logan, especially if he still needs to find a romantic solution to his problems by Season 3 when IRA goes into effect. Today, proof of lawful entry can be easily obtained by entering passport info into a government website, but Logan would have entered the US in 1994 or earlier, given his time on the show. Back then, proof of lawful entry came on a paper insert in the passport called Form I-94, which looks something like this. That one little slip of paper could make or break his plans for permanent residency. Better hang on to it, mate. What status would he have entered on? Looking at the visa map, you can see that Australia and the US currently have a visa waiver agreement, but this agreement was not in effect until 1996. So Logan would have had to apply through a consulate for a tourist visa. But tourist visas do not allow for employment, and this guy really wants to make money.
Oh, so you're with her just for her money. Oh, that makes me feel a lot better.
Working on a tourist visa could completely wreck any hopes of future employment-based status in the US, and he was clearly working for the Baywatch team. So, for his sake, let's hope he didn't enter the country as a tourist. So, if he was coming to work, what options did he have? There are multiple types of employment-based visas, all which need to be sorted out before a person comes to the country. But for the sake of not boring the audience into a state of cabin fever, we're just going to focus on the one most likely visa. J1 Cultural Exchange. J1 visas are available for people invited by an established exchange program to engage in research or training and promote cultural exchange. The programs can be run by schools, private organizations, or government agencies like the one that funds the Baywatch lifeguard program. Typically, J1 programs are one-time only jobs that run as short as a summer camp or as long as a year up to a year and a half, depending on the category of work. Given the tremendous boom of interest in Australia in the United States after the success of the groundbreaking documentary films on Australian culture, it's not hard to imagine local government agencies wanting to establish cross-cultural connections. For lifeguarding specifically, there is actually plenty to be shared between Southern California, where Baywatch takes place, and the land down under, as both regions offer popular destinations for swimmers, surfers, and scuba divers. And Australia is mentioned on the show as a kind of Valhalla for lifeguards. Leaving to work in Australia is one of the most humane ways that characters get written off the show. In fact, a character leaves in Season 3 specifically to join a year-long lifeguard exchange program in Australia. So, even if it's not mentioned by name, the show posits that a J1 type program exists, and this would have been an obvious opportunity for a skilled lifeguard like Logan to come to the US short term. It also explains his immediate sense of urgency in finding a means of staying long term, as the J1 could only have afforded him, at most, one season of the show. And realistically, for a lifeguard, it may have only allowed him to stay for one summer, as lifeguarding is seasonal work in many regions of the country. Now that we've established how Logan likely came to the US on a J1 cultural exchange visa, what options did he have to pursue long-term interests in the United States? For that matter, what's the big deal? So what if he overstays his visa or works without the explicit authorization of the US government? What's the worst that could happen? I'm here live, directly across from a United States federal building. Can we get a look at the building there? Yes. Federal buildings like this house many government offices, and this one in particular houses the U.S. immigration courts, where people like Logan Fowler, who've come into trouble with U.S. immigration law, once accused by the government of violating said laws, are made to stand in front of an immigration judge who has the authority to order them removed from the United States. Now, unlike criminal courts, people brought in front of the immigration court are not presumed innocent until proven guilty. In fact, proceedings begin with an admission of complete guilt, followed by what follows the admission of guilt is a series of pleadings with the judge and presentations of evidence to try to show why they should not be removed from the country. As our immigration attorney consultant tells us, however, no matter how sympathetic the case, most people's cases are ultimately denied, and they receive the order of removal. In fact, the court considers it a type of kindness, a mercy even, when it grants what is called voluntary departure, which is considered a form of relief. As the name implies, it does not allow you to remain in the United States. The only difference, potentially, from an order of removal, or deportation as it used to be called, is that you get to choose to leave the country on your own terms within a month from the decision of the court, rather than being forcibly removed at gunpoint. For most, however, even getting to the decision from the judge is a tiring process, taking many years to complete, and what? Where? What, this is... I'm being told we are actually not in front of the federal building. Where is it? Okay, Vern, we have to move. Okay, are we on the right corner now? All right, Vern, you could have confirmed that first instead of making me look like a boob on camera. Well, anyway, let's get started. Okay, 3, 2, 1. I'm here live, directly across from a United States federal building that houses many government offices, including the United States Immigration Courts. And no, I'm not saying all of that again. We'll just look at get a video of the courts, and I'll do a voiceover, okay? All right. Make me look like a boob on camera. In the show, Logan attempts 3 different methods of adjusting his status in the United States to permanent residency: marriage, employment, and straight-up fraud. We'll briefly examine each one and their likelihood of success. After announcing his looming visa expiration, Logan immediately shifts to scheming.
That's why I was counting on you to help me out. Oh, how's that? Well, didn't you know of a guy that bought his green card the last time you were here in the States? Yeah, I did, yeah. You think he's still around?
The show does not go into specifics as to how he might buy a green card, but rest assured there is no legal, quick, easy way to simply buy status in the US, and he knows this.
Logan, it can't be legal. What if you get caught?
What's the alternative? I go home and we never see each other again. My visa is about to expire.
As you might suspect, The US government does not take kindly to immigration fraud, and if Logan were to complete this act, he would risk getting removed from the country and forbidden from returning on any kind of status for the rest of his life. The government keeps an immigration file for everyone who ever applies for anything. Even if he successfully bought a green card, there would be no record of any kind of application for the card, which, naturally, would lead to high suspicions anytime an official pulls up his record. When would they pull up his record? Why, it could happen if he were to apply for citizenship, apply to renew the green card when it expires in 10 years, or even at the border when returning to the US from a foreign trip. In the show, Logan doesn't end up succeeding in his scheme to win the money required to commit this fraud, so we don't really have to say anymore. It was a bad idea, and it wouldn't have worked. With proof of lawful entry to the US on that J-1 visa and legitimate marriage to a US citizen, Logan could happily ever after his way to a green card. Oh, did I say legitimate? Yeah, that might be a problem here. The fellow lifeguard Caroline, played by Yasmin Bleeth, quickly develops feelings for Logan so strong that she loses her ability to lifeguard for a while. And it's clear over time that Logan has feelings for her too.
The truth is, I'm in love with Caroline.
But he also has feelings for money and quick fixes.
What can you tell me about Kathleen Huntington?
She's a rich bored widow. What else do you want to know?
Nothing else. That's more than enough.
So, despite having a real chance to fix his status by commitment to someone that cares for him, he has to sit Caroline down and tell her, "Caroline, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. But my life, my love, and my lady is this wealthy widower I'm about to sign a prenup with in order to enter a fraudulent marriage and get a green card." But could he get away with it? Perhaps. Perhaps not. They don't just hand out green cards to people who marry US citizens. They ask for bona fides, proof of the marriage, which are best demonstrated through shared finances and housing. There's often an interview, and if there are doubts, a second very intense interview. There's even a movie about this Logan could have watched and learned from. It's called Green Card, and it stars Annie McDowell and French actor Gerard Depardieu. Also, if the government receives a tip that there may be marriage fraud from someone like, oh, I don't know, maybe a jilted ex-lover, then they can visit people's homes to see if the green card applicant is actually living with the spouse or just faking it. Which is why it is highly recommended never to say the following to your jilted ex-lover.
If it's any consolation, I don't love Kathleen.
Or this.
I told you, the immigration service has held up my green card. Once it comes through, I'll be free. I'll get my own apartment. We'll be inseparable.
Logan does actually annul the fake marriage and resume his rocky romance with Caroline. He even proposes to her in the direct-to-VHS feature-length film, which was released after his first season on the show and later re-released as a 2-part episode late in his second season on the show. Anyway, they could have had a chance, but in the very next episode, Caroline catches him with the dastardly Neely.
I saw you with Neely.
Yeah, it's also not the first time he's wandered. Naturally, by the end of his run on the show, it is firmly established that Caroline and Logan will not be a couple. So no marriage-based green card. Keep busting. After Logan gives up on his marriage of convenience, he thinks up the following solution to his immigration status.
I can only remain in the country if my services are considered essential to my employer. If you tell the INS that I'm a person of exceptional skill, they'll give me my green card.
But is this a thing? Yes, actually. It's called the Employment-Based First Preference, or EB-1 visa, and it can be used as the basis for a green card application. But is it a good fit for Logan? The EB-1 visa is reserved for individuals capable of demonstrating extraordinary ability in the sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics through sustained national or international acclaim. Some have nicknamed this the Einstein visa, as its stated goal is drawing in the best and brightest talent from around the world, the Einsteins of their given fields. It isn't required to win a Nobel Prize like Einstein did in order to qualify for this visa, but demonstration of awards received is a major plus. Applicants must demonstrate 3 out of 10 of these stated criteria, showing their renown in their field. Putting aside the question of whether a lifeguard even qualifies under these categories, would Logan be able to meet any of these criteria? We don't have a lot of information to work with. Now, it is established that Logan is recognizably skilled at lifeguard duties.
And secondly, I knew that me and my rubber ducky would get her on shore way before you.
Even if he is a hothead.
So you and your rubber ducky almost drowned him in your wake.
But is he nationally or internationally recognized as a top-tier lifeguard leading the field? Are any of the most renowned and respected lifeguards able to vouch for him through letters of recommendation? Is he often asked to judge lifeguard competitions? Is he a member and or leader of any exclusive lifeguard societies? Has he written for any leading lifeguard trade publications, or been written about in those trade publications or the press at large? These are the questions an immigration attorney would ask, and it would take weeks to gather the evidence, if any exists. Even longer for Logan, as this show aired well before the internet and email were in common use. Yet his supervisor is able to hand him an envelope by the end of the episode, and the handing off of that envelope wraps up all the questions regarding his immigration status that this show ever poses. Would he qualify for the EB-1 visa? Almost certainly not. And I didn't even get into all the illegal employment he's likely engaged in. I don't mean illegal as in criminal, I just mean that any kind of employment-based visa typically comes with restrictions on the kind of work you're allowed to do. If you come in as a lifeguard, you gotta work as a lifeguard, and he is scheming and hounding and doing all this stuff in the background, trying to get businesses going, trying to sell clothing lines. Yeah, Uncle Sam's not gonna look very kindly at any of that, and that could kill his chances at a green card through employment. But hey, it's a TV show. Maybe he can team up with that octopus that steals surfboards and open a thrift shop for surfing goods. And maybe he and the octopus fall in love, and then the octopus produces a birth certificate that, hey, look, I'm a US-born octopus, therefore a citizen, therefore we can file for your green card now, Logan. Oh, but then the dastardly Neely comes in and reveals that she forged the octopus's birth certificate, and oh my goodness, and then... The show doesn't discuss it, but here are a couple other ways Logan might have been able to pursue permanent residency. In Season 6, Episode 10, Sweet Dreams, Logan discovers an abandoned baby who he thinks may have been left behind by a former lover of his. If he can prove this child was born in the US and thus a US citizen, could that get him a green card? Yes and no. Yes, the child can petition for him so he can get a green card, but it cannot do so until after its 21st birthday. Also, Logan is going to need to hang on to the passport and Form I-94 from his first entry to the US as proof of lawful entry to the US. Because that's going to be absolutely required for the green card application by the time the kid turns 21 in 2016. Oh, and he's probably going to want to remain in the US for all 21 years unless he finds some other way to fix his status, lest he incur a 3 or 10-year ban upon trying to return to the country. A few episodes later, Logan is harassed by a madman in a not-so-subtle Charlie's Angels parody. This doesn't help him with immigration in the time it occurs, but in the year 2000, a visa for victims of certain crimes became available. It's called a U visa, and it can eventually lead to permanent residency, provided Logan suffered a qualifying crime and can get local law enforcement to sign off on paperwork saying he complied with the investigation of the qualifying crime. And it is retroactive, so it could work. However, the processing times for U visas are awfully slow, and simply having a pending U visa case offers no immediate immigration benefits. That's a wrap for our review of Logan Fowler's immigration foibles, but what about that good real-life news I promised at the start of the episode? Well, the actor who played Logan Fowler, that's Jason Simmons, was in a committed relationship for the entirety of his time on Baywatch. He was a full opposite of his character. In fact, he said he was shy and reserved for much of his time, trying to keep his personal life quiet. Perhaps because his personal life involved being in a committed relationship to a man. And he said that when his other co-stars on Baywatch found out he was dating a man, they were all cool with it. About 10 years after leaving the show, he came out publicly to an Australian magazine and announced that he and his fiancée were raising a child together and had plans to marry. But it took nearly another 10 years, until 2015, and a United States Supreme Court decision legalizing gay marriage, until we finally got to see this. I'd like to thank our research and editing team, including our immigration attorney consultant and my creative partner Vern. And hey, let's give some credit where credit is due. I did plenty of research on my own for this episode as well. Once again, Bing.com, your image search does not disappoint. Let's see. Is Logan Fowler still married? Please say no. Oh, I'm just researching. This is men's health research. Just looking up some men's health information. I'll be up to bed soon. It's just.
The sailor said, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. But my life, my love, and my lady is the sea. Brandy.